most men will die underappreciated. So today's May 13th, 2026, and Mother's Day was on Sunday, right? It just passed. And it's very apparent how this society moves when you look at Mother's Day, because Mother's Day is really a manifestation of how glorified really the woman is in the society. And when you look at the Mother's Day in that lens, because the amount of people that are going out in restaurants, the amount of people that are going out with their moms and making sure that their moms are, taken care of and, you know, uh, really exalted. Let's call it what it is, exalted on this day. It goes to show you how reverenced the woman is. But compare that to Father's Day. And to be honest with y'all, I don't celebrate either. I honor my mother and my father every day. So I don't need one specific day to give them something or make them feel special. I do my best to do that every single day. And honestly, with y'all, I'm pretty sure most of y'all even know those holidays are a big okey doke. They're to pretty much continue to push to the masses, simp doctrine for men, really, and for mama's boys. I'm not saying if you celebrate you're a mama's boy. I'm just saying that the way the convention that these holidays are set up are for those reasons, right? And I meant to upload this video on Sunday, really, because I was out on Sunday and I was seeing this. I was out running errands and shit. And it was very apparent to me that most men will die underappreciated. And what sucks is usually the family man, the man who goes to work every day and he busts his ass for his family, and he's competent, he's ambitious, he wanted more for his family. Most of those guys that they're not necessarily the average man, but they're a man who could have been more per se, and they settled to be only a family man. Those are really the men that I see go underappreciated, you know. And really, great men, aren't reverenced or aren't appreciated until after they're dead. And that's a sad reality, that whatever we have too much of, we're very ungrateful for. And this is something that I've dealt with personally, and I speak from experience that when you're overextending and you give too much and your presence is always there, people will take it for granted. People will take it for granted. So most men, what I realize is that we're too consistent, we're too involved. And what I've noticed, this leads to self abandonment. A lot of men, they'll self abandon themselves for their family, and they think it's noble, but it's really a disservice to their family, to those around them, to themselves. This is really the moment a man betrays himself, because when this moment happens, he believes he's making a noble sacrifice. You see, we should be willing to die for our families, for our wife, for our kids. But that was always talking about the sacrifice of the body, of the flesh, never of your spirit, never of who you are, the essence of who you are. And many men go into these relationships, they have a family, and they lose who they are. They lose who they are. They blame the wife, they blame the kids secretly, and it manifests in different ways. And it's very unfortunate. I've seen this in my own culture. I'm Mexican, if y'all didn't know. So I've seen this in Mexican culture a lot, where it's like this noble act, and there's nothing really noble. It's really more sad, and it's really like um, it makes me feel for those guys, because what I've seen from them specifically is that they do go underappreciated. Because, like I said, they're too consistent and they're too involved. And what I really mean by that is that they do the work every day. They show up. They did it the way that society taught them. They work hard, but they are almost passive. They believe that, if I work hard, my boss is gonna see me and he's gonna give me a raise. And what I've seen, unfortunately, for a lot of these men is that that day never comes because it's almost like they work too hard at the job. They don't allow the job to like really miss who they are. You know, sometimes at my job I have to regulate how much I do, you know. I'm not saying that I'm not willing to step up to plate. I'm not willing to do extra time if they need me to, etc., etc. But a lot of times what I've seen is that men have this um notion of, okay, if I do more and I put my ass on the line more for these people, they're gonna see me, and that's just not how it is. It's actually when you pull back, you're like, okay, I'm gonna use my vacation time, I'm gonna use my sick days, I'm gonna use the time that they gave me so they could see what they're missing when I'm gone. And this principle not only applies to the job, but to your relationships, to your friendships, to everything in your life. Don't even see it as I have to pull back my presence so they could miss me. See it as I have to pull back my presence so I could go back to, number one, be with the Most High. Number two, really make sure I'm sitting with myself and understanding myself. Really making sure that I'm putting in the work for myself. You have a wife and kids. There's no reason that you shouldn't continue to go to the gym, continue to go discover who you are. There's no reason for that. You do your loved ones a disservice when you don't allow them to miss you. With your wife, I went through this personally with my relationship. I was always around my ex. I was always around my girlfriend. And you see this with guys all the time. They just always around their girl, always around their girl, always around their girl. And that shit is pleasurable. It's a pleasurable experience. It's great to be around them. I love being around a woman. I loved being around my ex. But the problem with that is that you never give them time to miss you. So when the relationship starts getting boring and it, too monotonous, it's just you've been there for too much. You haven't given them space so they could say, man, like I'm really happy with the man that I'm with, to really appreciate that. That's why the saying is they always come back when the relationship is done because they don't realize what they lost until after it's gone. It's the same principle alive for everyone. Even with my own relationship, I didn't realize a lot of the good that my ex did until after she was gone. Friends that were with me in the past until after they were gone. It's just the reality of it. So you have to take the time to actually be grateful and take a step back and look at your life and really audit why the people in your life are there. Like, are they appreciating me? Not that they have to, but do I give them that space to actually appreciate me? Do they actually value me? And also taking the time to value them and appreciate them and have that time to be grateful. Really, in the scriptures, the Most High sets up the seventh day to be a day of rest. What does that mean? It's a day of reflection. It's a day for you to not work, not buy, not sell. You can read that in the scriptures. It's called the Sabbath. But the point of it is if the Creator Himself set up a day of rest as a day of reflection, as a day for a man to separate himself, to one, go back to Him, two, really dial down, take a step away from life and just rejuvenate and recharge. It brings another level of gratitude to you. It brings another level of greatness because you're able to constantly audit your life instead of getting the okey doke, realizing that shit is not going the way you want, realizing that you're you're not happy. That won't happen to you because you'll have a day where you're constantly doing introspection work and reflecting. And really, you should be doing it every day. You should reflect every single day of your life. Find a moment to reflect. Most men do not reflect. They're overstimulated with noise and with information and with content and things that don't fucking matter. At the end of this day, I always say this life was made for men. Was it made for women? It wasn't made for children. It was made for us to discover who the Most High made us to be, to go on that path, find our gifts, find what makes us available in rooms, and allow that to shine into the world. Most men will die underappreciated, and it will be because they allowed it, because they allowed themselves to be too consistent. They allowed themselves to be too involved. I'm not saying don't be involved, and I'm not saying don't be consistent. What I'm saying is don't abandon yourself and call it noble. One of the greatest sacrifices in human history was Christ himself. But Christ never gave up his beliefs, his ideals, his solitude to always be with his disciples and always be around the people that needed him. He understood that he needed a recharge, he needed to be alone, he needed to go to the Father. He sacrificed his body, and in turn, he beat death. It is the same thing. We cannot abandon who we are for the loved ones around us, because then we will go underappreciated. You'll be lying in your deathbed, thinking to yourself, what if I had just lived the life that I actually wanted?